If I would have stopped in the midst of that, I just felt like the moment would have paralyzed him. Adversity, opposition, fear, it would have paralyzed him. And I said, like, it wasn't about the four-wheeler, it wasn't about my wife. It was about teaching my son, when life knocks your butt down, you get up and you go heavy, right? If you encounter something that doesn't go the way you want it to go, you get back up, man, and you go heavy.
Welcome to Legacy Makers, a conversation for dads. This is a space for building community and for honest conversations about fatherhood, the wins, the struggles, and the responsibility of building something that outlives us. Each episode, we sit down with leaders, dads, and friends to talk about family, fatherhood, and the kind of men our kids need us to be, because legacy isn't accidental, it's built. All right, Kev, we are back. We are joined by a very special guest. We're excited for today. Last time we were together, we talked about load-bearing walls. Every house has walls, but not every wall is created equal. Not every wall is designed to carry weight. As we've talked about, Ink, we don't know anything about building a house, so we're trying to limp through this analogy a little bit, but we do know load-bearing walls are important, and we're excited to have you here to help us unpack that. So for our listeners who don't know, let me just give you a little bit of background. So grew up in a crowded home here in Atlanta, right? Outside of Atlanta.
14 people?
14 people, man.
My gosh.
14.
My house is 6 folks and a dog, and I can't imagine adding another 8 bodies to that. So, man, listen, so much more to you than football, but dude, went to Tennessee, first round draft pick, ready to rock, was on track for the NFL, and a moment changed everything. 9/9/2006,
Absolutely.
September 9th against Air Force, a tackle, routine tackle, catastrophic injury, and we'll let you unpack that in a minute, but completely different story after that.
Absolutely.
God's story, but different than what you had envisioned. Led to his right arm being paralyzed. So thinking about the house, everything you had built in seconds had been gone, at least in your mind at that moment, right? But here's what you've done and what you became. He stayed with the team as a leader. He's earned degrees in political science, sports psychology, and one of the most sought after public motivational speakers in the country. Speaks on character and purpose and patience and commitment. And he's a husband, he's a dad, lives here in the local community, and we are very fortunate to have you, man. So welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you guys, man. It's an honor. Thank you guys so much.
It's going to be fun.
No doubt.
Kev, let's get into it, man.
Yeah, so just go back and tell us some of that story. Eric just unpacked it a little bit, but tell us about that moment. And I love what Eric said about what you had built felt like it was torn away.
Yeah, man. First off, man, when I say thank you guys for the opportunity, I greatly appreciate it. It means a lot. But September 9th, 2006, man, I've been playing ball since I was 7. Loved everything about it, and got to the point in my life to where things started to make sense. It looked like I was about to be a projected draft pick, go out, routine game, routine play, make a tackle, something I knew how to do 10, 20, 30 different ways. And 2 hours later, I found myself in the emergency room fighting for my life. And the next morning I wake up, my life was never the same again. And paralyzed my right arm and hand, had to adjust, adapt to a new normal. And I always tell people, man, it was so surreal, because you go from being this collegiate athlete, run, jump. I was right hand dominant, did everything with my right hand. I used to drive with my right hand, play basketball with my right hand, everything. And then you wake up and you can't use it. You can't feel it. You can't feel parts of your torso. You can't feel parts of your left leg because they had to take certain veins out because you ruptured an artery in your chest. And so these things happen overnight that it felt like it was a bad dream. I tell people for a couple of weeks, man, I would go to sleep early thinking when I wake up, I'll be able to feel my arm again. Wake up, still can't move it. I'll touch it, still can't feel it. And so, the perspective piece for me as it pertains to life in different areas and aspects of life is very real, because that was something that I had to cling on to personally just to help me put my mindset in such a space to navigate and adapt with having a paralyzed right arm and hand behind chasing a dream that had just ended.
Yeah. Before the injury, tell me what what was your life built on? Like, what did you think your life was going to be about?
I thought, just being transparent, I thought, man, you know, I'm going to go to the league. I'm going to play ball. I've always been a big community service guy. I'll be able to give back through my talents, through my gifts, and the things that God had blessed me with. And then I'll just sit on the porch, like my mentors used to say, I'll just sit on the porch and watch the grass grow, you know. But giving back and being able to contribute through my gifts, my talents, and my abilities, I never thought the things that have transpired as a result of what happened that day would have transpired. I've never thought about that prior to my injury. Yeah.
Was there a moment, like I think about how much, like you said, you woke up and things were just different. At what point, was it immediate, or did it take some time for you to have to get to that acceptance point of like, this is now there's something that's changed? Like, did you still have like this hope that, hey, look, I'm going to be able to get through this? And like, tell me like the acceptance piece.
The acceptance piece came probably a little bit over 2 years later. So it was a journey. I just getting to the place to where I can accept and embrace what had happened and transpired. Because you know how it is, man, like when you do things in life, like my whole life, you know, like anybody else, I had my share of adversity, obstacles, challenges, but I like to believe I was an overcomer, you know, just in terms of whatever got put in my way, I would just navigate and figure out a way to get through it. And so I felt like this was just par for the course for me. Another piece of adversity, another piece of opposition. Let's navigate, let's go to rehab for my arm. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna come back stronger. You know, I'm gonna come back stronger. But the medical term for my injury is brachial plexus avulsion. The thing about a brachial plexus avulsion, nobody can give you a timeline. Nobody can say, hey man, in 3 months, hey man, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, you'll have this back. Your arm will be, it's not like an ACL. And so they give you like, all right, man, in 2 to 3 years, if anything is gonna come back, it's gonna come back then. But my mindset as a young 20-year-old, oh man, 2 years, I'm gonna be strong. I'm gonna come back and be a beast. Yep. But at that 2-year mark, I hadn't seen any results, nothing. And so then it was like, all right, man, like maybe this is it. And one day I was just like, man, like I'm gonna just embrace that this is my new reality. Broke down, I cried, you know, and then I was like, all right, man, let's move forward. Let's see what's next.
Talk about that a little bit, that moment. What was the hardest truth you had to face in that moment?
That I could no longer do the thing that I once thought I would be doing to help my family and be able to contribute to the world. That was the hardest part. And also, you know, a lot of people had helped me get to that point. A lot of people, man, had done a lot for me that they didn't have to do, whether it be teachers, coaches, community members, parents, you know, family members. And so I always looked like, man, when I get to that point, I'm gonna be able to help these people and pay them back for what they did for me. And that was extremely tough for me, like, because I've always been a loyal person. And so just accepting that reality and having to adjust to a new normal, it was something that was extremely tough, you know, that I could no longer do it.
We talk about resilience in our kids, and I don't believe resilience is passed down. I think you got to walk through things. Yeah, you got to earn it. Resilience is earned. Do you think about growing up, were there certain things that maybe you walked through as a kid or in your adolescence that you look back and you're like, man, I'm glad I walked through that because it helped almost prepare me for what I was going to be coming down the line at 20 years old or whatever?
Oh, 100%. You know, like always, and I firmly believe this just in terms of my thought process, just about life holistically. Always believe you're prepared before adversity, opposition, or the battle shows up. But you don't see it until you get on the other side of it. And so what I mean by that is, like, you grow up 2-bedroom home, 14 people. Like, one of the things I learned very early was responsibility, accountability. I should be with my 3 younger cousins every day. And I was the oldest out of that group. So when we would leave the house, go to school, stuff like that, I had to take care of these little dudes. And I was a little dude myself, you know, and so we came up playing ball in the street, doing all these different things, man. And so you learn certain things, whether it be appreciation, when people help you, gratitude, you learn not to take things for granted, you know, and also the spiritual aspect of it. You know, I came up in a household to where I tell people I got to see both sides of the fence. I had women in that household that went to church, went to work, you know, my mother, my grandmother. Then I had uncles in that same household just doing everything under the sun, you know, illegal activity, crime, everything. And so by the time I got to be 20 years old, I was already in spiritual discipleship with our team chaplain, a guy by the name of James Mitchell. He's the chaplain for the Patriots right now. But back then, it's a cool older dude. You know, you come in as a young cat, college, you talking trash, you know, you being one of the guys, and he pulled us to the side, man, and he started to disciple us spiritually. And up until that point, I didn't know what discipleship was. And so when he first approached me about it, I was like, man, what's that? Like, you want to disciple me? What's that? It's like, I want to walk with you spiritually, man. I want to help you grow the same way you study the game. And at first I resisted it. Like, I don't know, man. Then I went to some of the boys and I was like, hey, man, are y'all down? Like, y'all want to be accountable to this? And he was like, man, if y'all open to it, I'll walk with you guys. And it was a group of us, 4 of us. And it was me, a guy by the name of Gerard Mayo, Robert Ayers, Ramon Foster, Sinclair Cannon. And so when what happened in college happened, you know, mentally, I was already, as tough as it was, but mentally, I was already in a state of mind to where I was shifting anyway, you know, from the spiritual aspect and all of the things I had been through prior. I felt like from a maturity standpoint, not that you're ready for something like that, but I said this last year, I said, man, like the rhythm of it, how it changed my life, I was used to that. Like I was used to putting my perspective in a place and having to reverse engineer or deal with change. I was used to that. Like I was conditioned for that, you know, because my whole life had been that. You know, I was used to riding in the car with my mom, watching my mother, my first pair of cleats, she putting together dollars and change. I was used to that. You know, I was used to riding in the truck with my stepfather. He drove a plumbing van, dropped me off. Like I was used to certain things. And so when change happened at that point, I felt like everything prior to that point had prepared me, you know, to deal with it and accept it.
Man, that's so good. I want to get some of these other questions, but can you help me just with the narrative journey? So this happens a couple years later. When did you get married? When did you have kids? Like, tell me how that next few years went.
Yeah, so the injury happened when I was 20. Got married when I was 25.
Okay.
Yeah, and so our daughter Jada, she's 15. Our son Ink is 14. Been married 15 years. Me and my wife grew up 2 blocks away from each other. You know, went to elementary, middle, high school.
Oh, wow.
Together. And so, yeah, I started down the path after my injury. I started down the path to become a coach, a graduate assistant coach. I was on Lane Kiffin's staff at Tennessee. When Lane left,
I bet we could have some stories for there.
Oh, no question. Oh, hilarious. Hilarious, man. But when Lane left to go to Tennessee, he wanted to take me to USC with him. I moved back to Atlanta at that point because my wife, she's pregnant with our daughter Jada, and I moved, and I had no plans to speak. Never thought I would be speaking. I wanted to work at the rec center in my neighborhood to create leadership curriculums for the kids. And when I moved back, man, I remember I took my resume up, and they was like, yeah, man, you're overqualified. I'm like, it's a rec center, man. I'm like, just trying to work with the kids. And they was like, yeah, we don't know what to tell you. And I tried to just work. I was trying to get a job. And nothing worked out, man. And somebody's like, man, you need to speak. And at that point, people were offering me to come out, you know, and like, man, come out, Ink, come tell us about your story, come tell us. And I did it. And when I did it, I was in prayer and I was searching, you know, God, like what's next, what I'm supposed to be doing. And I felt like I got confirmation. And from there, I said, I want to be obedient to what I feel God is calling me to do with my life. And I felt like it was speaking. And still until this day, man, people offer me player development jobs to work with teams and stuff like that. But I feel like God has me where God wants me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good.
So I think about like what actually holds when you go through something like that, which is kind of the load-bearing wall premise. I love your take on patience. I think our kids grow up, hustle culture, let's go after this, let's work to grind.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really powerful that is our kids are missing about being patient. You mentioned obedience. Talk a little bit about how you feel that the importance of patience is as you raise your kids, or just in life in general, being patient.
Man, man, real talk, like an hour prior to this, I was just talking to one of my buddies because he's talking about something that happened with his son at school. And so he's frustrated. He's like, man, I'm going to get this little joke after school. So we were talking, and I said, man, you know, every single day, without fail, every single day, I pray for a lot of things, right? Just as it pertains to my wife, my children, me, life. But one of the things I pray for every single day is patience. Every single day. Like, I just feel like, man, it's phenomenal, and it helps you navigate. When you're patient, you're a better listener. You're a better communicator, right? You look at things with the right perspective. And so as it pertains to patience, even in my own life, like, it's been a lifesaver for me, you know, in several aspects, you know, as I navigate, as I grow. And I feel like, you know, I've had to be patient in terms of, like, my career, you know, what I do. Like, I never call myself a motivational speaker, not once. You know, I'm a servant. That's how I look at my work. Yeah. But when it pertains to patience, like, when you first start speaking, like, it's not like you just have 30 gigs lined up to go out and share your story, provide for your family. It doesn't work like that. It's just like a leap of faith. You have to be patient. You have to trust the process. You have to be diligent. You have to show up. You have to study. You have to perfect your craft. And you have to trust the work that you're putting in. It's going to yield good fruit. And so for me, being patient, man, that's something I pray for every single day, because I feel like as it pertains to mastership, you never master patience. You work and you grow and you get better at it, but you never master it.
Right.
And I feel like that's the greatest challenge, but it's also the greatest reward when you find things to where you're like, man, okay, even if I didn't get it in the moment, I'm cognizant of it. Even like with my children, like trying to work with them on displaying certain behavior, being athletes in life, chess, instruments, whatever the case may be. And as it pertains to patience, and then looking at my example sometimes in the moment as it pertains to patience, and how did I respond? Like, but what I'm trying to teach them, did I reflect patience in the moment? And so I feel like as it pertains to mastership and patience, man, every single day I pray for it, because every single day I'm seeking and I'm trying to get better at it.
I love it. I think as Kevin and I have talked about this, like, we are so accustomed in life to very short feedback loops. Like, did I win or did I lose?
Right on.
Did I make the number? Did I not? Did I miss the number? Yeah. Right? Like, was it a good date or a bad date with my wife? Right? Like, we have to have that constructive patience with our kids, because, man, there's not it's continued. Like, if you are trying to get a result out of your kids, like this, you never stop being a dad.
Absolutely.
And we've got to have that patience. I always think, and I also think about this playing basketball, like, momentum to me is something I think a lot about, like, in life. And you don't have the ability to build momentum unless you're patient. We get so like ready to rock and roll. Like, I want this, I want that. But like, man, like, you've got to be, because then all of a sudden, once you have it, you have momentum, you can't explain it.
Right.
But you got it at your back.
Yeah.
You were at a spot, you're looking for gigs. All of a sudden you're turning stuff to, how did that happen? Yeah. It's that grind, but it's like that constructively patient gets you there, man. I mean, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. I love how you talked about how you try to teach that to your kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious about this, because one of the things I worry about is that, and I wouldn't say I had a ton of adversity growing up, but I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. There was, like, it wasn't, just always super easy. Absolutely. I think about your story in particular. Yeah. You talk about 14 people, you talk about what the uncles were doing, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It almost like you had learned early on to deal with adversity. And so then when it hit, this adversity with your arm, like, you had some preparation for it. Right. Okay, let's just be real for a second. Yeah. Your kids are growing up a little bit different than question. You grew up.
100%.
And so how do you, when we think of this load-bearing walls, like, what are the things that are going to stay firm and secure when life gets tough?
Absolutely.
How are you equipping your kids for that? How do you instill that in them?
Yeah. I think, man, that's great. But I think, as it pertains to the things that we're guided by in life, you know, whether it be integrity, whether it be cultivating character, whether it be responding, whether it be the ability to process things in the right way, like all of these things usually affect and impact how we deal with life situations or the things we encounter. And so even when I think back to adversity and opposition, like, man, like, it doesn't take the most talented or the strongest or the sharpest person to get through it. But all of us are guided by certain things that we identify with, whether it be our character, whether it be things that we don't do, things that we do. And so with my children, I always try to preach principle, like how we operate and how we do things and how we show up and why that's important. And so with my son and my daughter, like, I remember one day my daughter came home and she was like, Dad, you know, like, when you hold the door for people, people don't always say thank you. And I was like, that's the world. But I was like, Jay, you know, like, you're not holding the door for them to say thank you. You're holding the door because that's the right thing to do. Like, if you feel it in your heart, you hold the door. Like, I had an uncle, he passed last year on December 2nd. He was like a father to me. And I remember when I was young and I would go spend the night at his house, man, like, people would be knocking at his door like 2, 3 in the morning. And he would get up and help them and do different things for them. And, you know, he used to work in the concrete industry. And he would take us sometimes to work with him and like give us $5 on a Saturday or something like that. And I remember he would always say, you help people and you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Like, that's what you do. And so as it pertains to adversity and opposition or just life in general, I believe you live life a certain type of way. And it's not predicated upon situation, circumstances, what you face, what you go through. Like, I always used to tell my guys, like, when I play ball, like, man, the hardest person sometimes to deal with is an inconsistent person that's basing their effort, their integrity, what they bring to an environment off of how things happen and show up. And I'm like, man, just do what you do because that's who you are as an individual. And it's not even about, because we live in this world, right, to where it's about, you know, wins, losses, results, and outcomes, metrics. That's the world we live in. It's always, man, how do we do? What's the numbers? What's this? What's that? And I tell my kids, man, sometimes it's not about winning and losing. Sometimes it's not about the outcome or the result. Sometimes it's about the ability to finish. And by finishing, in spite of adversity, opposition, challenges, hurt, pain, loss, tears, blood, sweat, just by the ability to finish, it's going to turn you into the right type of person. Because most people, when things don't go their way, they revert, they are bored, say, nah, it's not for me. So even if you have the ability to finish something, even if you're not in first or you're not getting the trophy, you finished when it didn't go your way. You cultivate a certain mentality, disposition, and spirit that somewhere down the line, you're going to be conditioned that way. And so it's always principle with me, with my kids. It's not even about the outcome.
Yeah, I hate to have you say it again because I'm sure you've told the story a bunch of times, man, but I came across you, the go heavy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's in the same vein about a lesson that you know, taught your son.
Yeah,
like, tell that story about go heavy.
Yeah, man. It's, we get these little 4-wheelers, you know, for Christmas, man. You know, I get them for the kids and I try to hide them, you know, so they couldn't see him, so we can go in with the girls, see the presents first. And so my son spots it on the way to the tree. He spots one of the little 4-wheelers. And he's like, man, bump that. Like, Dad, I want to go ride a 4-wheeler. So, you know, he wasn't 14. He's a little smaller. You know, it's a few years ago. So I was like, you sure? He's like, yeah, I want to go. So I tell the girls, like, man, we're going to go out. We're going to ride the 4-wheelers. And so my wife was already kind of like, nah, against it. You know what I'm saying? My mom, you know what I'm saying? My mom was like, I don't know, man. Like, you got one arm, man. Like, you want to be doing, like, you want to engage in that type of activity?
And you said, yes, I do.
Oh, yeah, we finna do it. Like, and so as I'm trying to teach my kids, like, whenever I feel like we're going to be in an intense situation, things can change quick, I always try to give them code words to where, hey, man, if I say this, this means this, you know. And so my son, I'm like, all right, Ink, we're going to ride, man, but we're going to use light and heavy. When I say light, you barely press it. We're going to ride, let them get the little photos, get it out the way. I said, when I say heavy, you mash it, man, and we rolling. So I was like, you got it? He's like, I got it, Dad. And you know how these little four-wheelers have a little rack on the back you can sit on? So I'm on the back rack. We're riding. I'm light. He's getting it heavy. He's getting it. But he's a kid. So, you know, he thinks he's mastered it quick. And so as we're riding, they start playing music. He's feeling himself. So I'm light, heavy, and I hit light again, and he mashes it. You know, I guess he processes it wrong. He mashes it. And we spin off, man, and he loses a little control. He tries to turn, man, and we flip. Like flip, boom, boom. And so I get up, I look at him, and he's looking at the sky like he's looking for God. Like, oh, man. Like, you know, four-wheeler flipped over, and I look up, I see my wife, and she's in a full-blown sprint coming toward us. So I'm like, Ink, get up. I'm like, get up, man. You got to get up for your mama get. I'm like, your mama make it to you. She going to make you think you got shot 25 times. I'm like, get up, bro. And so he get up. You know, I turn the four-wheel over. I sit him on the seat. I sit on the back rack. You know, we put the key back in it. I say, Ink, go. He looks at me like, Dad, you want me to leave, Mommy? I was like, go heavy. And he mashes it. We spin off. And he was like, Dad, it's the best thing ever. I was like, all right, man, pull back up where Mommy and Grandma are. We're going to park it. And when we pull back up, you know, my wife and my mom, they was giving it to me. Why you do that? Like, you always on this. You get knocked down. You get up stuff. Why didn't you just stop? Y'all could have hurt yourselves. And I was like, man, I didn't stop because if I would have stopped in the midst of that, I just felt like the moment would have paralyzed him. Adversity, opposition, fear, it would have paralyzed him. You know, and I said, like, it wasn't about the four-wheeler. It wasn't about my wife. It was about teaching my son when life knocks your butt down, you get up and you go heavy, right? If you encounter something that doesn't go the way you want it to go, you get back up, man, and you go heavy. Because oftentimes you can hit something and it could be so traumatic. Like you think about even people, present day, they go through experiences and it's so traumatic that it affects and impact the way they live their life, right? Yep. And it's like, man, you only got one shot at this thing, man. Like, live. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, me and my son, we got in an accident in our truck one day. We got in an accident right up on the bridge, man, getting off, going by Cumberland Mall. Truck flipped over 3 or 4 times. By the grace of God, we were fine. The next day, very next day, I get with my son. My wife was like, where you all going? I said, we're going to go back across the bridge. She's like, going to go back across the same bridge, y'all, the ramp y'all flipped over? I was like, absolutely. I was like, I need to let him know that it's okay. Yeah. Like, it's fine. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just my mentality in life. Like, when I go through something, even if it whoops me, like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to attack it.
Yeah. You know? Here's what I would say to some of the dads listening. Whether it's something you're walking through at work or in life, or you have a moment like that might seem insignificant, like we wrecked the four-wheeler. Yeah. There's teaching moments are everywhere.
100%.
And unfortunately, as dads sometimes, whether it's we're tired or, hey, I'll tell them that later tonight, or if you are feeling something, do it in that moment.
Absolutely.
In the moment, do it.
Yeah.
And explain the why behind it.
Absolutely.
We talk a lot about the importance of, hey, you can teach say all the words you want, but caught versus taught. They're going to watch how you react. 100%. They're going to watch how you attack a situation. Yeah. And it's on us as dads to really pull that string all the way through to make sure you maximize the impact there.
Yeah, and I want to say this too, because I love the fact that you said that. One of the reasons why I do that, just even as a dad, is because that's when my emotions are the rawest, in the moment. And it allows me to be the most transparent. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we can all feel, like if we go through a situation right now, we go out, we're hiking or whatever, if something happens and it's a raw moment, we're gonna be transparent, we're gonna share how we really feel in that moment. And so it's not even always about like my son seeing me and thinking like, oh man, Dad handled that the right way. Sometimes it may be fear. Sometimes I may be anxious. Sometimes I may have some reservation, but I want him to see all faces of his dad. I don't want him to just see like, man, Dad handled that right. That was seamless. That was great. I want him to see, oh man, we was in adversity. This is how Dad processed. When we got in that accident, we were standing out in the rain on a bridge, looking at our car, windows busted, you know, airbags deployed. Like we were in a situation to where I'm sure my son was like, man, my arm was bloody. at the time, like I want him to see several shades of his father and dad. Like I feel like that's important, you know, because as a young man, I didn't always get to see that.
Totally.
You know, because I didn't grow up in the house with my dad. Even though my dad started coming around and our relationship became better, but I used to wish that some of the things I would go through as a young man, I could just come and ask my dad a question in the house that night just to see what his response would be.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely.
Yeah, I know you guys. I was really quick on that. I think, and my dad, my relationship with my dad's great. We had him on, but I remember becoming a dad.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not equipped because I looked at my dad thinking he had every single answer to every. I never. He just knew everything.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. Now, as we've grown up and I've had conversations with him, I want my kids to know like where my deficiencies are. What am I working on? Like, we don't want to be the Superman. Like, they need to see the reality of it.
Absolutely.
I think that's real true. Let me ask this, and then I'll let you bring us home. I think about, I mean, you're crushing it. Eric, we're watching your content. So you are impacting lives literally all over this world. Thank you for what you're doing with that. But when you think about your legacy inside your own house, like everybody, a lot of people may know Inky Johnson out here, but what do you hope your legacy is inside your home? What do you hope your kids... we've had this thing. Some people do the funeral thing, but what do you hope? You know, when they're getting married and they talk about the impact their dad had on their life. What do you hope that is?
Man, I just always press for, and I was cognizant of this early. I never wanted my kids to be in a space and place, whether it be my funeral, whether it be an event, and people get up and speak and say, man, like, this dude did this, or this dude did this, or, man, I really appreciated this dude and how he handled this. And kids sit there, and I never wanted my kids to sit there and be like, yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know that guy. I never got to see that side of him. I want my kids to sit there and be like, yep, that's my dad, man. That's who he is. That's how he treats people. That's how he does things. You know, and so the whole situation with being a public success and private failure, right? Like, I would rather my kids be proud of me and who I am than ever being out in the world and being celebrated, but behind closed doors, my kids being like, man, Pops ain't nothing like that in the crib. And so for me, my family, that's most important. My son, my daughter, my wife, and being true to that, my 3 little sisters, you know, being true to who I am as an individual, that's most important because those are the people that I steward every single day in close quarters. And also, those are the people that steward me, you know, with situations. So, absolutely, that's my legacy.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I've got a couple quick ones. So, pressure hits a house, you really quickly determine where there's weak spots.
Right.
You talked a little bit earlier about you may not have gone through it yet, but it's something's coming. It's just how.
Absolutely.
What would you say to a dad that maybe hasn't gone through something significant, but you batten down the hatches? Like, how would you coach them to make sure they're ready for when adversity does strike? What would you say to them?
When it comes, don't fight it, trust it. And so about 2 weeks ago, I was walking, and we got a group of guys that we talk pretty frequently. We call each other, man, like you all talk about mixing it up with the guys. We call each other and just talk life. And so I was walking a couple of weeks ago, and I was just calling the guys and asking them a question. Like, hey, man, when do you feel like you're at your best? You know, just as a man, as a dad, as a father, husband, like, when do you feel like you're at your best? And all of them gave, you know, some dope answers, different answers, and it was cool. And one of the guys asked me, he said, man, when do you feel like you're at your best? And I was like, man, you know, like, when I'm not fighting life, like, and I'm trusting, and I'm like, okay, God, when situations show up or I go through things, okay, God, what's the lesson in this? Like, what are you trying to teach me in the moment? Like, what is there for me to extract from this moment? And oftentimes when adversity and opposition shows up, fair or unfair, sometimes we can find ourselves fighting it, especially if we feel like we've done the work, things have been going well. Man, why is this happening to me? Like, man, I did this. I showed up, man. I did what I was supposed to do. I treated people right. Don't fight it. Trust it. Because everything we face carries with it a seed that's equal or greater to helping us become a better individual. If we don't resist it, if we don't fight it, and we learn how to trust it and just see, man, what's the lesson in it? You know, what's on the other side of this? If I handle this in the right manner, like, what's the tool I can add to my arsenal? How can this help me as a dad, as a husband, to contribute more? And so don't fight it, man. Trust it. You know, there's something in it that can help you be better.
It's good.
Yeah.
Love it. I got a quote that I'm going to read, and I'd love for you to react to that, man, and we'll close it out. But again, to Kevin's point, just appreciate you investing time.
Oh, no doubt.
But also, listen, you're moving fast, but I hope you take time occasionally just to know the impact that you're having on a lot of people.
Thank you, man.
And so congrats on all your success, and we continue to root you on. So I heard you actually say this on a podcast a few years ago. I don't know if it's your quote. If it is, and honestly, you should just take credit for it at this point. So if you must look back, do so forgivingly. If you must look forward, do so prayerfully. However, the wisest thing you can do is be present in the present gratefully. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Close us out.
Yeah, it's that's not my quote. It was something that we were reading, like these quote cards, and so we do these quote cards every day, and I was reading it, and I just thought it was a dope quote, but also there's a lot of truth to it, man. Even that last part that you stated about just being present in the present gratefully. I journal every day, you know, and I've been doing it for a while. And sometimes the things that I write down are just things that I'm grateful for. Sometimes the things I write in my journal, I express, you know, things that I'm going through, things that I'm dealing with, want to accomplish. So I do it different, but almost all the time I put something that I'm grateful for, because I believe gratitude just reshapes the perspective, reshapes the language, reshapes the way we see other people in their situations. And so I think, man, when you could be present gratefully, just whatever you do, wherever you find your hands with your work, wherever you find yourself, just learn how to be present, you know. And I think, like, bro, I talk to people a lot about my injury and things like that happen. But one of the things that it really blessed me with is it showed me the fragility of life. You know, it showed me how quickly things can change. It showed me how quickly things can shift. And so every single day, man, I try my best. I don't always get it right, but I try my best to wherever I find myself. If I'm in the batting cage throwing BP with my son, you know, phones off. You know, probably if you ask people and you be like, man, do that joker ever answer his phone? They'll be like, man, that's the worst dude ever to call, because I try to put it up and I just try to be present in the present gratefully, you know, because my life changed at one point and it made me look at things totally different, you know. And so, man, I think if you could find that gratitude every single day, I'm talking about intense gratitude. I'm not just talking about waking up being like, oh, man, I'm grateful. I'm talking about an intense pursuit of gratitude every single day, environments that we go into, things that happen. Like, I search for it because I need it as a dad, as a husband, as a man. I need gratitude because I feel as if gratitude makes me better, right? And when I'm better, my household is better. And so, yeah, man, that's where that quote came from. That's how it resonates, and I feel as if it holds a lot of raw truth, for sure.
Love it.
That's good right there.
Yeah.
Inky, thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Absolutely,
And
man.
Eric and I do this because we want to encourage dads.
No doubt.
And I want to encourage dads to find ways to stay encouraged. And you got to follow Inky's stuff. Go find him on Instagram. We'll put it in the show notes. But whatever it takes for us to stay motivated and ready to be the husbands and the dads that God's created us to be.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for being with us.
No, thank you guys, man. I think this is awesome, man. And I'll be in prayer for you guys, man. This is necessary. Keep doing your thing, man. We need it. You know, I'm a dad. I need it. And so it's dope. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Inky.
Go Dads.
Sure.